A strange signal on Kepler 8 RTHE, red sun of Kepler 8R, hung low in the sky, casting a dull orange light over the rocky wasteland. The wind howled like a warning, carrying with it fine dust that stuck to every surface. Human explorer Drake Harlan stood near the edge of a sharp cliff, his oxygen mask hissing quietly as it filtered the toxic air around him. He had been on this planet for 6 days now, sent by the Terran Resource Union to scan for minerals and salvage. The planet was dead, no green, no water, and definitely no life. Or so he thought. Then the signal came. A faint beep echoed through his helmet. His comms unit picked up something weak, very weak. It wasn't human. Not even a known alien language. But it was repeating the same code again and again. Sora. Ketan, Jali Sora. Ketan. Drake's eyes narrowed. His translator AI tried to process it but failed. Still, he felt a chill. Something about the voice in the signal. It was small, afraid, maybe even dying. He tapped his wristpad and followed the signal. It led him through jagged canyons and across cracked plains for nearly an hour. The air grew thicker, darker. The sky turned a strange shade of green as the sun began to fade behind storm clouds. Then he saw a crashed escape pod, half buried in sand and rock. Smoke rose from its broken side, and part of it still glowed faintly with heat. Drake rushed forward, stepping carefully over the jagged metal dot inside. It was chaos. Wires sparked. The walls were scorched. The air was almost unbreathable, even for him. Then he saw her. She was tiny, no taller than a child, her skin pale blue and glowing softly in the dark. Her small hands scratched weakly at her chest plate, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Her breathing mask was cracked. Her eyes rolled back. She was gasping for air. Drake didn't think. He didn't wait. He yanked his own oxygen mask off and pressed it over her face. His lungs burned instantly. The air felt like acid. He staggered but kept the mask sealed over. Her small face. She blinked, confused. Then her chest rose, and she inhaled deeply. She was breathing again. Drake collapsed beside her, coughing violently. His vision blurred. The alien girl looked at him, eyes wide. She reached a trembling hand to touch his face. Then everything went black. Drake woke up inside a dim shelter. The walls were made of metal and fabric, his own portable habitat, hastily set up. His head pounded, his lips were dry. But he was breathing. He looked to the side. She was sitting there. The alien girl, wrapped in a silver thermal blanket. Her eyes were focused on him. You okay?" he croaked. She nodded slowly. "You gave breath," she said, her voice small and broken. Drake tried to sit up. "Yeah, guess I did." She crawled closer. "Why?" He gave a tired smile. "Didn't want you to die." The girl stared at him for a long time. Then she said, "Name." "Lixa, Lixa," he repeated. "I'm Drake, human, explorer." She looked outside the shelter's flap. The wind still howled. The sky had turned dark purple. "Bad people," she said suddenly. "They come, they look for me." Drake frowned. "Who?" Lixa shook her head. "Hunters, slavers, shipfall. I run. They chase." A cold feeling settled in Drake's stomach. This girl hadn't just crashed. She had escaped. And now someone was after her. He glanced at his oxygen tank. It was nearly empty. He'd given most of it to her. "Great," he muttered. "What did I just get myself into?" Lixa reached out and held his hand. Her fingers were cold and delicate. "You save me," she whispered. "I help you." Drake looked into her glowing eyes. She didn't look dangerous. She looked scared, alone. He sighed. "Well then," he said, "I guess we're stuck with each other." Outside, lightning cracked across the sky. In the distance, something moved. A ship small and dark passed quickly overhead. Lixa froze. "They found me," she said softly. Drake reached for his gear. pain shooting through his ribs. Whatever. It was just getting started. Her name as Lixav night on Kepler 8R was colder than Drake expected. The wind scratched at the shelter like claws. Inside, the human and the alien girl sat silently, listening. Drake's ribs still hurt from the fall. His oxygen levels were low. The tank beeped softly, a warning he couldn't ignore much longer. Across from him, the tiny alien girl, Lixa, sat hugging her knees. She was watching him with wide, glowing eyes. Her silver blanket rustled each time the wind blew harder. "Are you sure someone is chasing you?" Drake asked, voice low. Lixa gave a slow nod. "Yes, they bought me, from my world. But I run. My pod, broken." She pointed to the crash site. "They want me back," Drake rubbed his forehead. "Slavers." He had heard of rare, illegal traders who sold intelligent life to rich buyers across the galaxy. The thought made his stomach twist. "But why you?" He asked. She looked away. "Because I am rare." Drake narrowed his eyes. "Rare how?" She didn't answer. Instead, Lixa stood up and walked toward the wall. She touched a small panel on the side of the shelter. The panel lit up under her hand. Drake's jaw dropped. "You activated the power grid." "I learn fast," Lixa said quietly. She turned and looked at him. "Your tech is simple," Drake blinked. "How old are you?" "I don't know," she said. "They never told me." Drake looked at the half-working oxygen generator. "Well, smart or not, we're in trouble. The oxygen is almost out." Lixa walked over, crouched, and inspected the broken system. "This broken coil, I fix." Drake frowned. "Wait, you can fix human tech?" She nodded. "With my tech, from my pod." He looked at her surprised. "You're really not normal." "Are you?" She smiled slightly, then stood. "I bring parts." Drake watched her crawl outside through a flap, disappearing into the dark. He waited, heart pounding. What if she ran? What if those slavers were out there? Minutes passed. Then she returned, carrying a glowing metal plate and some kind of alien. Battery. She connected them quickly. Wires sparked. A low hum began. The oxygen generator lit up. Drake stared in disbelief. "You did it." "I said I help," Lixa whispered. A beep. Fresh oxygen began to fill the shelter. Drake inhaled deeply, relief washing over him. But then came the sound, a deep rumble in the sky. They both looked up. A shadow passed over the shelter. Drake moved fast. He pulled Lixa down beside him and turned off the lights. Through a crack in the wall, they watched. A dark ship hovered above the crash site, scanning with blue lights. It was silent, like a ghost. Its markings were unfamiliar, definitely not from any known government. Lixa gripped Drake's arm tightly. "That's them," she whispered. "The hunters." Drake whispered back, "We have to move. If they scan for life signs, they'll find us." Lixa nodded. "There is a cave, behind the cliffs. I saw it." Drake stood slowly, pain shooting through his side. "Grab the tools. We'll need supplies." They packed quickly: food packs, the oxygen generator, a laser cutter, and Lixa's alien battery. Then they crawled out the back of the shelter, using the rocks for cover. Above them, the ship's lights swept over the crash site again. Drake and Lixa moved through the rocks, careful not to make noise. The cold bit at their skin, but they didn't stop. After 15 minutes of climbing, they reached the mouth of the cave. Inside, it was warmer. The air was thin, but stable. Lixa set up the oxygen generator again, and soon they could breathe easily. Drake slumped against the wall. "Okay, safe for now." Lixa sat beside him. "Thank you, again." Drake looked at her. "You saved me too. We're even." Lixa hesitated. "You remind me of someone." "Who?" "My brother," she said softly. "They took him." "I never saw him again." Drake said nothing. He didn't know what to say. Lixa pulled a small device from her pouch. It projected a flickering blue image, a boy, older than her, with similar glowing eyes. He told me. Trust no one, Lixa said. Drake looked at her seriously. But you trusted me, she nodded. I don't know why. I just felt it. He smiled. Sometimes you have to follow your gut. They sat quietly for a while. Then Lixa looked at him. You won't leave me? Drake shook his head. No, we'll figure this out, together. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the cave. Deep, mechanical. Biological signatures detected. Authorization required. Drake stood up quickly. What was that? Lixa's eyes widened. This place, it's not just a cave. Drake looked around as lights began to glow from within the cave walls. It wasn't natural. It was a hidden facility. The oxygen runs low. Drake stared at the glowing walls of the cave, his breath shallow. The smooth stone now shimmered with faint blue lines like circuits buried under rock. It's not just a cave, he whispered again. Lixa stood beside him, her eyes glowing brighter now. It's old. Very old. I've seen ruins like this before, hidden by my people long ago. The voice returned, cold and metallic. Intruders detected. Identify. Drake looked around, then saw a small console lighting up near the wall. Let me try, he said, stepping toward it. Wait, Lixa warned. If it's defensive, it could attack. Drake paused. But time was running out. He tapped the console lightly, hoping it wouldn't react. A second passed. Then the lights dimmed. Oxygen levels critical, the voice now said calmly. Releasing emergency supply. Hostiles not detected. A vent hissed. Cold, clean air poured into the chamber. Drake and Lixa both took a deep breath. That's lucky, Drake said. Whatever this place is, it doesn't see us as a threat. Yet. Lixa frowned. It responded to your touch. Drake raised an eyebrow. Maybe it's human-made. No, Lixa said, walking slowly. This is older than humans, maybe older than my people too. The walls began to display shaped symbols neither of them could read. But Lixa's eyes stayed fixed on them. I've seen these in the slaver archives, she said. They were scared of these markings, called it precursor tech. Drake's stomach twisted. Precursor technology was a mystery even to the Terran Union. Some believed it was from a race that came before all others, builders of powerful things. Dangerous things. And now they were standing inside one. They found a small chamber deeper. Inside, it looked like a rest area. A flat surface shaped like a bed, glowing lights overhead, and storage lockers built into the walls. Drake set down the oxygen generator. It hummed weakly. The battery was almost drained. How much time do we have? Lixa asked. An hour, maybe less. Lixa bit her lip. I can boost it with my power core, but it'll burn out. Drake shook his head. We might need that later. She looked down. Then we breathe together. One tank, we share. He paused, then gave her a half smile. We'll make it work. They sat together, breathing slowly, taking turns near the generator's output. The air was still dry and cold, but it was better than nothing. After a while, Lixa spoke softly. I remember, my mother used to hum to me. When I was scared, Drake looked at her. Do you remember her face? She shook her head. No, only her voice. Silence returned. Drake felt his chest tighten, not just from low oxygen, but from the weight of her words. This girl had lost everything. Suddenly, the floor below them shook. A wall to the side opened up, revealing a tunnel. What now? Drake muttered, standing. Up. From the tunnel, a soft humming sound echoed. Lixa's eyes lit up. That sound, it's energy. Pure energy. Drake grabbed his gear. Then let's go. The tunnel led down into another chamber, this one larger, filled with floating orbs and crystal lights. In the center stood a tall pillar with rings rotating slowly around it. At its base, a power source. Bright blue, steady, and strong. Drake ran forward. That's what we need. He connected the alien battery to the source. It charged instantly. The oxygen unit powered back on, now glowing brighter than ever. Lixa laughed with joy. "We can breathe again," she said, spinning once in the room. Drake smiled, then froze. Behind her, one of the orbs began to glow red. "Lixa, look out!" A blast of light shot from the orb, striking the wall behind her. She screamed and ducked, tumbling to the ground. Drake pulled his blaster and fired at the orb. It flickered and retreated into the shadows. "Defense system," he said through gritted teeth. Too much noise must have triggered it. Lixa stood, shaking. "It scanned me like the others." Drake stepped toward her. "What do you mean?" She held her arm. "It tried to read me, like the hunters did." Drake stared. "Why? What are they scanning for?" Lixa looked down. "Something inside me. Something they want." Before he could ask more, their comms device buzzed. "Incoming signal. Origin, low orbit." Drake activated the small screen. A distorted voice played. "Unregistered human craft. You have taken illegal property. Surrender the girl, or be terminated." Drake's hand turned into a fist. "They found us." Lixa looked up at him, her voice trembling. "Will you give me back to them?" He didn't even hesitate. "No." He looked around the glowing chamber. "This place gave us power, oxygen, and a chance. Maybe it can give us a way to fight back." Lixa's eyes were full of fear, but also something new. Hope that the hunters arrived. The cave trembled. Drake grabbed Lixa's arm and pulled her behind a large crystal wall. The floating orbs above them dimmed and spun silently, as if watching. Outside, the rumble of engines filled the air. "They're here," Lixa whispered. Her hands were shaking. Drake peeked through a narrow crack in the cave's entrance. A small black ship hovered near the edge of the cliff. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, and 3 tall figures in silver armor stepped out. Their movements were smooth, mechanical, too perfect to be human. "Not just slavers," Drake muttered. "These are bounty hunters. Professional ones." Lixa clutched his sleeve. "They scan for heat, sound, heartbeats." Drake pulled out a small gadget from his belt. "Then we go quiet." He activated a pulse scrambler, an old human trick used during stealth missions. It dampened signals for a short time. They ducked back into the cave, but the problem wasn't just hiding, it was escaping. The tunnel behind them was long, but it led nowhere. The only known exit was now blocked by hunters. Drake looked at Lixa. "Can you power the orb again?" "The one that charged the generator?" She nodded. "But it attacked me last time. Maybe it was scared," Drake said. "But now, we need its help." She walked slowly toward the energy pillar again, arms raised. This time she didn't touch it. She simply stood still. The orb floated closer. Its light scanned her, but didn't fire. "I think it knows me now," Lixa whispered. The orb blinked blue. Drake stepped back in awe. "It's not a weapon, it's a guardian." Suddenly, the orb floated to the far wall and shone a beam. A hidden door slid open. "A second way out," Drake sighed. "Let's move." But before they could run, a sharp sound echoed through the tunnel. Zzz. A bolt of red light struck the wall beside them, spraying dust and sparks. The hunters had entered. Drake raised his blaster and returned fire. Lixa ducked behind him. "Run! I'll hold them off." He shouted, "No!" Lixa cried, grabbing his arm, but he shoved her gently toward the door. "Go, Lixa, I'll find you." She hesitated, but then ran through the glowing doorway. Drake fired again, hitting one of the hunter's chest plates. The impact barely slowed it down. The figure raised a strange alien weapon, long, sharp, and glowing red. Before it could shoot again, a second orb from the ceiling shot down and blasted it with a blue beam. The hunter flew backward, slamming into the cave wall. Drake blinked. Okay, definitely a guardian. He ran through the door Lixa had used. The new passage was narrower, made of smooth stone. The walls were wet, and glowing moss lit the way. Drake followed the trail of Lixa's footprints. He caught up with her near an underground stream. She was kneeling, breathing hard. "They're coming," she said. Drake looked at the tunnel behind them. "This place must go deep underground. We can lose them." Lixa pointed ahead. "There's a lift. Maybe it works." They ran together toward the strange platform at the end of the passage. It was ancient, covered in dust, but still humming. Drake placed his hand on the control panel. Nothing. Lixa stepped forward and pressed her glowing palm onto the center dot. The platform lit up. "You're the key," Drake said, amazed. They stepped onto the lift. It began to lower slowly into darkness. Behind them, the sound of boots echoed through the tunnel. One of the hunters spotted them and raised its weapon. Drake aimed and fired again, this time hitting the hunter's shoulder. Sparks flew. The lift dropped faster. As it descended, Lixa gripped the railing. "Why are they chasing me so badly?" "I don't know," Drake said. "But they're terrified of what you are." Lixa looked down. "I'm not special. I'm just broken." Drake knelt beside her. "You're more than you know." The lift stopped in a large cavern. It looked like an old control room. Screens, chairs, and consoles were everywhere. Most were cracked, but one was still working. Drake approached it. A symbol appeared, a strange swirling shape. Lixa gasped. "That's my family's crest." Drake turned. "Then this whole place might have belonged to your people." She touched the screen. The hologram shifted, showing a star map of dozens of systems and a blinking dot. "What is that?" Drake asked. Lixa leaned closer. "A signal. Someone like me, is calling." Just then, the system flashed red. "Warning. Unauthorized entities detected. Lockdown initiated." Drake cursed. They triggered an alarm. Doors sealed shut. The air went still. "They're trapped in here with us," Lixa whispered. Drake smiled darkly. "Good. Let's give them a fight they'll never forget." The hidden facility, the red lockdown lights flashed across the walls. Doors sealed. Silence fell. Drake stood with his blaster raised, breathing hard. Beside him, Lixa clutched the edge of the glowing control console, her small fingers trembling. "Slightly. They're trapped in here," she whispered. Drake nodded. "And so are we." They were deep underground now. The walls around them were smooth, metallic, and humming with ancient energy. This wasn't a cave, it was a hidden base. Maybe once part of a lost alien civilization, maybe Lixa's ancestors. Maybe something older. Drake scanned the room. There were other exits, but they were locked tight. Security doors, thick and unbreakable. But the consoles, they were still working. "We need to understand this place," Drake said, stepping closer to the central console. "If it knows you, maybe it can help us." Lixa nodded slowly and placed her hand back on the glowing pad. The screens around them flickered. A soft voice, this one warm and feminine, echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, Lixa Tehran. Genetic match confirmed. Level 3 access granted." Drake blinked. "That's your full name?" Lixa looked surprised too. "Tehran, that was my family's house. I thought it was gone." The screens came to life, showing maps, symbols, and something that looked like a DNA strand. Drake pointed. "Edit, what's that?" The eye answered before Lixa could speak. "Subject Lixa Tehran carries dormant core strain, PSI-12. Potential activation, 3.2%. Status, protected." Drake frowned. "Protected? From what?" The lights dimmed. Then, an image appeared on the central screen. It showed slavers, bounty hunters, even scientists, all surrounding alien children, testing them, selecting only a few. Then it showed Lixa, much younger, being scanned and taken away. "They were looking for children like me," Lixa whispered. "To find something. They were testing You for this psi thing, Drake said, his voice hard. Like some kind of experiment. She looked at him with sad eyes. I didn't know why they wanted me. I thought I was just broken. You're not broken, Drake said. You're rare, and they're afraid of you. Suddenly, an alarm echoed through the base. Intruders breaching lower level. Defense systems offline. Countdown to override, 90 seconds. Drake swore under his breath. They're coming. He rushed to the console and tried to open another path and escape route, but the system denied him. Lixa stepped forward again. Let me try. She touched the panel, and this time a section of the wall slid open behind them, revealing a narrow tunnel filled with flickering lights. Drake grabbed the gear and turned to her. Let's go. They ran down the corridor as the ground shook behind them. The hunters were forcing their way in. As they moved deeper, the tunnel opened into another massive chamber. Drake stopped in awe. It looked like a laboratory, but not the kind he was used to. Strange glass tubes floated mid-air, glowing softly. In each one was a small alien child, sleeping or frozen, suspended in liquid light. Lixa. He breathed. What is this? Lixa stepped closer to one of the tubes. Her eyes filled with tears. They're like me, she said. All of them. Drake walked beside her. They must have been taken too, but hidden here. A console. Lit up nearby, the voice returned. Stasis units, active. Emergency wake-up sequence ready. Instructions? Drake looked at her. We can wake them up. Lixa looked unsure. But it's not safe. If the hunters find us here, Drake thought quickly. What if we lead the hunters here, then trap them? Lixa's eyes widened. You mean, bait them? Drake nodded. Use this chamber like a trap. Lure them in, seal the doors, and fry the whole room. But the children, Drake held her gaze. Only if they're still frozen. We won't risk them. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, let's do it. They set the plan in motion quickly. Drake rewired the control panel while Lixa linked the energy system to the chamber's defenses. She moved like she had done this 1,000 times. The base seemed to respond to her, like it remembered her. Suddenly, the door behind them shook. Boom, boom. The hunters had reached the lab. Lixa looked at Drake. Ready? He pressed the final button. Now, they ran back through the tunnel, sealing the glass doors behind them. From the console, Drake activated the trap. Inside the lab, the doors opened just long enough for the hunters to enter. Then the room lit up, electric energy pouring through the walls, locking the intruders inside. The ground rumbled, and a huge flash of light lit the corridor behind them. When the tremor stopped, the screen showed the chamber now sealed and quiet. They're gone, Drake said. We did it. Lixa slumped to the ground, exhausted. But the others, the children, Drake checked the panel. Still alive, still safe. She smiled weakly. Then maybe there's hope. He sat beside her. There's always hope. And for the first time since he landed on this planet, Drake felt something new. Purpose, that sacrifice protocol. Silence after the trap was almost too much. Drake stared at the sealed monitor, watching faint sparks blink across the locked chamber that had just fried the hunters. Their metal armor and weapons were no match for the energy blast Lixa had triggered. They're gone, he said again, his voice low. Lixa stood beside him, staring at the screen. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were distant. They were. Just the first wave, she whispered. More will come. Drake sighed. Then we prepare. We find a way out, and we wake those kids when it's safe. He tapped a few buttons on the control pad, trying to find another exit from the underground facility. Suddenly, everything went dark. Blackout. The screens. The lights. Even the soft hum of the oxygen generator fell silent. For 5 full seconds. Only the sound of Lixa's breathing filled the air. Then a red light flickered on. A new voice spoke, not the soft, friendly I from before, but something deeper, colder. Sacrifice protocol activated. Psi-core detected. Containment failed. Emergency purge in 10 minutes. Drake's blood ran cold. Purge? Lixa gasped. They're going to destroy everything. A new map appeared on the only working screen. A large part of the facility, including the stasis chamber, full of sleeping children, was marked for total destruction. Why? Drake growled. Why would the system wipe them out? Lixa stepped closer, her voice shaking. It thinks I'm the threat. I activated too many systems. The psi-core in my blood. It triggered the protocol. Drake looked at her. Then we shut it down. Fast. But the control panel now showed a lock one that required a manual override key. A single word blinked on the screen. Key location, core reactor room. Drake groaned. Of course. The reactor room was at the bottom of the facility, far below even the stasis chamber. And if the purge was real, they had minutes to get there. We have no choice, Drake said. Come on. They ran down the narrow halls, the emergency. Red lights flashing around them like alarm bells. The walls vibrated slightly like something deep below was already heating up. As they ran, Lixa grabbed Drake's hand. You know what sacrifice protocol means, right? He didn't answer. She stopped him. It means someone has to stay behind. To manually shut it down from inside the reactor. He stared at her. I'm not letting you do it. She shook her head. And I won't let you do it either. They moved again, racing deeper, until they reached the reactor doors. Heavy, thick, glowing faint green. The lock scanned them both. Access granted. Inside. The room glowed with pulsing energy. At the center was the reactor core, a floating sphere of light spinning inside 3 metal rings. Below it, a console waited. And on it a red key, hovering slightly above the surface. There, Drake said. He stepped forward, grabbed the key, and slammed it into the slot. Nothing happened. A voice spoke again. Manual override requires dual activation. Drake looked at Lixa. 2 people, she nodded slowly. One inside, one at the backup controls, far side of the room. Drake stepped toward the backup station, but Lixa grabbed his hand. I should do it, she said. No, Drake replied. I'm the one it's targeting, she insisted. It's my blood, my core, my mistake. Drake stared at her. She wasn't wrong, but he couldn't lose her. Not now. He pulled his hand away. Let's do this together. You take the console. I take the backup station. Same time. She hesitated, then nodded. They each took their places. The countdown was at 2 minutes. On my mark, Drake shouted. 3, 2, 1 now. Both of them hit the override buttons. The core flashed bright white, then dimmed. A long silence, then the voice returned. Sacrifice protocol canceled. Facility returning to safe mode. The lights turned soft blue. The air filled again with the quiet hum of power. They had done it. Drake walked back to Lixa, his shirt soaked in sweat. You okay? She smiled, but her legs buckled. He caught her. I used too much energy, she said, her voice barely a whisper. The reactor pulled at me. It knew me. Drake laid her down gently. You rest. I'll get us back. He picked her up and carried her out of the room. The walls no longer felt hostile. They were warm now, alive, peaceful. Back in the stasis chamber. The children still slept. The monitors blinked green. Safe. Drake looked down at Lixa as she rested. In his arms, you saved them all, he said. Not just me. She gave a weak smile. No, we did. And for the first time, she looked at peace. A new life among stars. 2 weeks later. The stars above the orbiting Terran vessel shimmered like diamonds. Drake stood at the edge of the viewing deck. Staring down at the blue-gray planet below Kepler 8r, now marked as a restricted zone. What had once been just another dead rock, was now the location of a recovered precursor facility, a stasis chamber filled with rescued alien children, and the beginning of something much bigger. Behind him, the door slid open with a soft hiss. Footsteps. He turned and smiled. It was Lexa. No longer wearing her ragged flight suit, she now wore a custom-fitted human exploration uniform. Her skin glowed faintly as always, but her posture had changed. She stood taller, stronger, still staring at the planet. She asked with a teasing smile. "Hard to look away," Drake replied. "It's where everything changed." She stepped beside him, her small hand resting on the glass. "It's where I almost died, and where I found freedom." Drake chuckled. "Yeah, you scared the hell out of me." Lexa looked at him. "You gave me your oxygen. You didn't even know me." "You looked like you needed it," he said. Simply, she tilted her head. "No one ever helped me without wanting something." He looked at her now, this tiny alien girl who once gasped for air and clung to survival, and saw someone else, a symbol of hope. "Still having headaches?" he asked gently. "Less now," she nodded. "The doctor said my body is adjusting. My psi-core is stabilizing." "Whatever that means, it means you're dangerous," he joked. She smiled. "And protected." They stood in silence for a while. Then Drake asked, "What happens now?" Lexa turned to face him. "The Union is setting up a science station in orbit. The kids from the stasis chamber are being slowly awakened." "Carefully, one by one," Drake nodded. "Any memory?" "Some remember families, others only fear." She looked down. "But they all recognize me. You were the first they saw," Drake said. "The first one free." Lexa hesitated. "They think I'm their leader, aren't you?" She gave a small laugh. "I'm still learning how to be anything." "Well," Drake said, "they'll need someone to teach them how to fly, how to think like explorers, how to fix things with scraps and duct tape." "Like a human?" She smirked. "Exactly." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I was offered a place at the Xeno Academy. Earth orbit. I'd study science, language, history." "That's great." I said no. Drake blinked. "Wait, why?" She looked up at him. "Because I want to go with you." He froze. "Me?" Lexa nodded. "You have a ship. You go to broken places and fix what others ignore." "That's what I want to do." Drake scratched the back of his neck. "Lexa, that kind of life isn't safe. You've been through enough." "But it's real," she said softly. "And I trust you." He looked into her eyes. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He sighed, then smiled. "All right. You're part of the crew now." Her face lit up with joy. A moment later, a soft chime echoed through the intercom. "Captain Harlan, clearance granted. The Starship Rover 7 is ready for launch." Drake nodded. "Time to go." They made their way to the docking bay where the Rover 7 waited, a small but strong ship, patched up with both human and alien tech. Inside, everything was ready. Supplies loaded, charts updated. Destination open. Drake sat in the pilot's seat. Lexa slid into the co-pilot chair beside him. She tapped the console, running her fingers over the controls like a pro. "Where to first?" she asked. Drake leaned back. "Wherever someone needs help." Lexa looked thoughtful. "Maybe a planet where kids like me don't have to hide." "Then that's where we'll go." The engines rumbled. The stars shifted. As the ship rose from the dock, a group of children watched from the window of the medical bay. One of them, a small boy with glowing green eyes, raised his hand in goodbye. Lexa waved back, her heart full. They weren't just running anymore. They were flying toward something better. 1 month later, the Rover 7 hovered above a small mining outpost on the edge of an asteroid belt. The station was failing life support, nearly offline. People panicking. Inside, humans and aliens alike worked together as Drake repaired a busted oxygen regulator with pieces from an old toaster. Lexa stood nearby, teaching a small alien child how to connect wires properly. "You see," she said gently, "you match the blue light with the green wire." The child beamed. "Like you showed me." She nodded. "Exactly." Drake watched from the corner and smiled. She wasn't just surviving now. She was changing lives, just like someone once did for her.